Yo, what is up guys? It's Pedro here, and in today's video, I'll be talking about how Jaden Daniels and Malik Nabers might be teaming up in the near future, but maybe not the way you might think. Also talk about some updates from today around the NFL, how it affects the Washington Commanders. If you guys are new, make sure to subscribe, hit that like button, and turn on that notification bell so you never miss a video. Comment down below your score prediction for the Commander-Saints game coming up next Sunday. 1 week away. It's a big game, and we'll talk about an injury that might affect the game big time next week in terms of the Saints, who had an injury today in the game that's definitely going to impact the game. But let's get right into it. So Malik Nabers, and this is just, this is bye week stuff, so it's not super important, but just something to talk about. Malik Nabers and Jaden Daniels obviously have a really good relationship. They're best friends. Jaden Daniels has a lot of, friends in the NFL. I mean, it makes sense. He's an NFL player, but big names like Brandon Ayuk, Malik Nabers, some other guys as well that he's, friendly with, like Micah Parsons, Rashad White. But besides the point, they were on Instagram Live yesterday, and they were talking. Jayden Daniels had a charity event, I believe, in California. I think that's where he was over some of the bye week. So good thing, for him. First charity event, maybe some Christmas thing. Not completely sure there, but good to see him being active there, and that's side of things in the community, giving back to his hometown. Maybe he'll do some things in DC. Probably already has, to be honest, that I'm not really locked in on, but they're on live, and then basically Malik Nabers said that they're going to start a podcast together, which some fans are excited about. Some fans are like, I don't know. Do you want a player, your quarterback, to have a podcast with a division rival? For me, I don't really care as long as I don't know about in season. I think that's kind of wild to be, not, it's not that wild, but I think it's a little bit maybe interesting if you're doing a podcast with a division rival, throughout the whole season. Maybe they'll do it. I don't think it's a big deal. Like, I believe the St. Brown brothers did it there. Their brother's a little bit different, but it was division rival. So it's fine if they do it, as long as it's not taking away from their on the field stuff, which I don't think it will. And I don't think Jaden Daniels is the type of guy to be giving people headlines through his podcast. CJ Stroud has a podcast, I believe, with Micah or something. He does something, and you don't really hear him giving the headlines. It's really Micah Parsons. I think he had, Trayvon Diggs on as well. It's either Micah with CJ Stroud, and that might just be a summer thing, or it's a full year thing, or it's Micah with Trayvon. I'm not completely sure. I just know Micah has a podcast, and it definitely creates a lot of headlines and something that you don't necessarily want. Sorry, you don't necessarily want. So I don't think Jaden's going to give those headlines. So I don't have a problem with this at all. It's cool to get your franchise quarterback doing a podcast. You'll hear more from him, maybe more of a different side of him than he's given to necessarily the media, where he's not, when it's his first year with them, he's not as comfortable with them as he is Malik Nabers, and he really never will be. But he'll start to get more comfortable with the media in the next few years. But again, like I said, he'll be way more comfortable with Nabers. He'll be able to talk about different stuff, so we'll get to know him a little bit more. So not a big deal. Not a big deal at all. Pause. But just wanted to mention that it is a bye week, so not a lot to talk about. So some other stuff to mention, and they literally just mentioned at the end of the podcast or the live stream. It was just Malik who said, watch out, stay tuned for a podcast with me and Five, which, assuming that's Jaden Daniels, does wear 5, and was the only other guy on the live with him. But stay tuned for that. Maybe an off-season type of thing. If it's only off-season, that's great. That's ideal. But if it's in the season, you know what, that's fine as well. Terms of NFL, games today, the Saints, they played the Giants. I was rooting for the Giants just because I wanted them to get the worst pick possible in the draft, like in terms of getting it later. So instead of getting the number 1 pick, maybe getting the 4 or 5. They did win, or they did lose, which is good for them. They should have at least tied and gotten to overtime. So that's not great for the Commanders in terms of that, in terms of maybe the Giants' future being a little bit better, because they did lose today. But Derek Carr did get hurt in this game, some kind of hand injury, tried to hurdle like 2 or 3 guys, flipped up in the air, landed on his left arm, Seems like a sprain or a break. I don't know. I don't want to speculate too much, even though I just did, contradicting myself right there. But I mean, yeah, I think he's at least in question in terms of his status for the game next Sunday. And their quarterbacks, their backups aren't good. Spencer Rattler, he's a young rookie, didn't have a great stint when he did play those few games. And then the other guy, I think something Hayner, I don't know. Uh, Not great options for them. So if that's the case, the Commanders need to take advantage of that. Other NFC games, the Rams right now are beating the Bills. The Cardinals are getting uh, blown out right now by the Seahawks by 24-10 in the first half. Could change. Panthers couldn't upset the Eagles. It was close. Leggett, Leggett, I think, should have came down with that catch. Didn't. Bucks won, which isn't great for us. Vikings won, which I guess it makes it a little bit harder for the Falcons to get that wild card spot, so that's not bad. And then besides that, like the Dolphins won, which we have their third round picks. Would have been good if they lost that game. And then obviously on Thursday, the Detroit Lions won that game, which is very good for the Commanders if they want to get that sixth seed. So the Commanders have four more games. Play the Saints next week, must win game. Just because, I mean, they can obviously still make the playoffs if they don't win that game, but it's probably the easiest game on your schedule remaining. So win that game, see what you can do after that. But that's an important game. If you win that game, you're already at 9 wins, and you have a shot if the season ended that day to make the playoffs. So win that game, you're in a good spot, and then you go ahead and play the Eagles after that, and then the Falcons, who are struggling. Who Kirk Cousins, I don't know the exact amount of games, but it's like the last few games or so, he has 0 touchdowns and 8 interceptions. Might be the last three-ish games. Today didn't have a great game. The game before against the Chargers had like 3 interceptions. So that's a game that we should also win. That's at home. The Saints game is away. So might change some things a little bit, but it's not going to be a ton of home field advantage just because the Saints, their season's over basically. But yeah, Chase Young, revenge game. He had a good game today against the Giants. I think 10 pressures, tying a career high. And yeah, we'll see what happens. But just want to talk about that. And yeah, I didn't post a video yesterday. If you didn't check it out, I did post a video talking about the playoff odds again 2 days ago. It's doing pretty well. Go ahead and check that out. And peace.